الضرائب ده لو كان بتقع في يد أمينة بنقدر نقدم خدمات لمواطنينا بصورة كويس والسوق بيكون متدني. لكن إذا نحن دايرين نربي البطل، أي زول شايل له بطل قدامه وأي زول جا في السلطة ما شبعان من بيته هو بيكون جعان عمره كله، حتى لو خمم قروش جنوب السودان ده كله يربي بطل لكن عمره حيكون جعان في بيته. في شوارع داخلية، شوارع ده تابع للسيتي كانسل للولاية، وفي شوارع للمستوى بتاعت الحكومة القومي. من المفترض حكومة القومي يصلح الشوارع، حتى لو شفنا في كاستم هنا في حفر، يعني في شوارع رئيسية كتير ما في تنمية نهائي. من المفترض الشركات اللي بيعملوا معهم الكونتراكت بيكون في قروش ريزاب بتاع اللي هو إعادة ترميم الشوارع. خليك من منظمات الكثير في مدينة جوبا إنما عارفين خدمات المنظمات دي بتقدم للمواطنين. المنظمة لما يجي يتسجل هناك يقول عندنا 10% ولا 40%، انت متوقع من المنظمة ده ممكن يقدم لك اي خدمة كويس؟ ما في ناس قاعدين ياكلوا وراكم. يبقى القياديين بتاعنا هم السبب في الموت بتاعنا، كان بالجعان، كان تعليم ما في، كان ما في امن، هم السبب.
Sounds of the Week on iRadio, your eye on South Sudan. Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, this is iRadio 1 o'clock news. First, here are the headlines. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has said his recent visit to the U.S. was to reset ties with the Western powerhouse, where he urged the U.S. government and American investors to invest in South Sudan's natural resources, including oil, gas, minerals, and infrastructure. The Minister of Finance and Planning has expressed concern over South Sudan's low non-oil revenue contributions, which currently account for less than 20% of the national budget. And the Minister of Information in Upper Nile State has once again appealed to the judiciary to deploy a resident judge in Malakal, saying the prolonged absence of judicial services is denying citizens access to justice. This is stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Lasuba Memo, and now the news in detail. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has said his recent visit to the U.S. was to reset ties with the Western powerhouse, where he urged the U.S. government and American investors to invest in South Sudan's natural resources, including oil, gas, minerals, and infrastructure. Monday, Simaya Kumba has announced this during his recent visit to the United States, aimed at resetting diplomatic ties with the global powerhouse. He encouraged the U.S. government and American investors to consider opportunities in South Sudan's natural resources, including oil, gas, minerals, and infrastructure development. Ambassador Simaya, speaking upon his return at Juba International Airport yesterday, said he held high-level meetings at the U.S. State Department with a senior presidential advisor to President Donald Trump and a Deputy Assistant Secretary of State of African Affairs. According to Simaya, his proposals were received positively by the U.S. officials. He stated that the visit's objectives included revitalizing bilateral relations and exploring the possibility of lifting visa restrictions imposed on South Sudanese citizens. Simaya conveyed a message of hope and friendship from President Salva Kiir, the people, and the government of South Sudan to the U.S. administration. He says,
Present in the United States of America, we exchange views on the status of our bilateral relations, and also we discuss the challenges facing our relations. I'm visiting the United States this time mainly to reset the bilateral relations between our two countries. And again, I'm visiting the United States to find possibilities of lifting the visa restrictions and also to coordinate our efforts in addressing the challenges facing the Republic of South Sudan within the United Nations family. And most importantly, I'm visiting the United States this time to also offer an opportunity to the United States government and the United States investors to come and invest in the Republic of South Sudan with main focus in the areas of minerals, oil and gas, tourism, agriculture, and infrastructural development, among others.
2 weeks ago, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reaffirmed the enduring friendship between the American and South Sudanese people, a bond he said began long before South Sudan's independence in 2011. In a message shared via the official Facebook page of the U.S. Embassy in Juba on July 9th, Rubio extended his best wishes to the people of South Sudan on behalf of the U.S. government. Since gaining independence in 2011, South Sudan's relationship with the United States has been both supportive and complex, marked by strong American backing at the outset, followed by challenges tied to governance issues, internal conflict, and humanitarian crisis. While the U.S. played a pivotal role in supporting South Sudan's independence, ongoing instability has led to strained ties with Washington, prioritizing conflict resolution and humanitarian assistance. The Minister of Finance and Planning has expressed concern over South Sudan's low non-oil revenue contributions, which currently account for less than 20% of the national budget. Dr. Mariel Dongring urged the South Sudan Revenue Authority to intensify efforts and align its performance with regional standards. Dr. Dongrin described last month's non-oil revenue contribution as low, stating that the country collects less than $500 million per fiscal year for domestic sources. He cited neighboring countries as examples, stating that Kenya generates 60% of its national budget from tax revenue, while Uganda stands at 50%. Dr. Dongrin said the ministry will prioritize the welfare of the South Sudan Revenue Authority staff to boost morale and performance as they work to increase revenue collections. The minister was speaking at an event in Juba yesterday.
These figures that we are talking about, the 984 billion collected by June 2025, is still very low when it comes to contribution to our national budget. We are not yet contributing here from taxes even 30%. It's about 19 to 20% of our budget. And you've seen what happened when we experienced the disruption in the oil production, oil export. You've seen how we have been struggling as a country to fund the government programs, because we are only dependent on the taxes that are only bringing less than 20% of the national budget. And so, while we acknowledge the improvement, we are definitely very far. And I'm asking board and the management of SRRA and the staff to do even more. So the next target will be very high, but you will achieve it. You need to give me that promise that you will achieve it. We are not going to set unreasonable target. But in life, if you set low target, you are not going to achieve anything.
Meanwhile, the Commissioner General of the South Sudan Revenue Authority, Simon Akwe, announced that the institution collected 112 billion South Sudan pounds in non-oil revenue during the first 15 days of July, surpassing its bi-weekly target of 100 billion South Sudan pounds. Akwe credited the increase in revenue to ongoing internal reforms and growing commitment from the South Sudan Revenue Authority staff. He acknowledged the progress, but stressed that it is only the beginning of the journey towards sustainable domestic revenue generation. The Commissioner also revealed plans to establish a revenue training institute aimed at strengthening tax administration and building institutional capacity. In addition, the Revenue Authority is preparing to introduce a Tax Procedure Act. The proposed law will clarify the roles of national, state and local authorities in tax collection and address long-standing issues such as double taxation, which businesses have frequently raised as concern. The Deputy Governor of Central Equatorial State has called on the Revenue Authority to provide more opportunities for state-level revenue authorities at the South Sudan Institute for Revenue Administration to strengthen coordination and understanding of tax laws. He emphasized that this support should come through a series of training and capacity-building programs. During the inauguration of the institute on Tuesday, Deputy Governor Paulino Lokudu Obede said that the South Sudan Revenue Authority continues to face challenges such as taxpayer non-compliance and inefficient auditing of institutions that fail to pay taxes. He stressed the importance of effective communication and education to help taxpayers understand their responsibilities. Lokudu cited non-compliance, weak enforcement and limited cooperation between taxpayers and tax institutions as key issues. The Deputy Governor added that with collective effort, taxpayers would better understand their obligations and the consequences of non-compliance, and that such understanding should be integrated into their broader governance and legal framework.
And I wanted to appeal to the Commissioner General of South Sudan Revenue Authority that this institution should offer opportunity to the revenue authorities in the states so that the coordination and understanding of our laws and understanding of the revenue-related taxes, and as well enhancing their capacity to deal with issues related with revenue collection, to be put in one picture through series of trainings and capacity buildings here. Today, Central Equatoria, or Juba, is facing series of challenges related with issues to do with tax collection, which is also the same challenges faced by South Sudan Revenue Authority. The issues of the non-compliance and the risks associated with non-compliance, effective and efficient auditing of the institution that don't pay taxes, issues related with the cooperation of the taxpayers with the tax institutions or tax revenue generating institutions. All these issues, we will make policies from here, I believe so. The policies that can educate the taxpayers on the importance of the commitment of paying taxes, and as well, we will assure them the management and administration.
This is iRadio News. The Minister of Information in Upper Nile State has once again appealed to the judiciary to deploy a resident judge in Malakal, saying the prolonged absence of judicial services is denying citizens access to justice. Speaking to iRadio in an exclusive interview, Peter Nyogjo says Malakal town has remained without a functioning judge for more than a year, leaving a backlog of unresolved cases and frustration among the residents. According to him, small issues and problems are resolved by the chiefs and bargaining between the parties.
القضايا طبعا بيحاول مرات هنا مع النيابه نحاول على جال القضايا ما في لكن بالنسبه للقضايا الكبيره القضايا بتاعت يكفي مثلا والقضايا بتاعت جيران الجنسيه والقضايا الكبيره دور القضايا ما زال يكونوا عليه صراحه من هنا يعني الانتظار فترات طويله جدا لكن الحاجات البسيطه تقدر تتعالج من خلال الاسر مثلا الادارات الاهليه.
Nyojo is urging the National Judiciary to prioritize Upper Nile and ensure the timely deployment of judicial officers, especially to the state capital, Malakal, that is recovering from years of conflict.
اصلا عندنا طلبات هناك من بدري عندنا طلبات هناك من بدري انه يدورون وضاح هنا طلبات موجوده قديمه الحاجه اللي طلبت انه نحرك الموضوع بتاعنا من جديد على اساس انه خطوره الاولويات وكذا كنت في توزيع بعد كده توزيعات الولايات العالميه لكن الورق مكتوب عندنا طلبات قديمه موجوده هناك على مستوى وزاره العدل في السودان الحاجه دي موجوده هم عارفين اصلا الوضع الموجود
The judiciary of South Sudan is yet to comment on the matter. Before we move to the international news, President Salva Kiir has called on the 6 newly appointed Supreme Court judges to carry out their duties with dignity and integrity. Kiir made the call during an oath-taking ceremony at the State House on Tuesday. The 6 justices, including Stephen Simon Benjingwa, Bol Lulwang, Isaac Pur Majak, William Kaya Pacifico, Makur Machok Manyon, and Kulang Jeroboam Machor. In a statement to the state-run SSBC yesterday, Kiir tasked the justices with strengthening an independent judiciary which support national peace and stability by ensuring justice for all. He said that their promotion was not a mere show of trust, but rather a responsibility that requires commitment to go beyond interpreting the law and becomes defenders of fairness, equality, and the rights of people.
Trust in your commitment to uphold justice in our country. I congratulate you for this mission that you are going to undertake. Your promotion brings responsibilities as judges. You are not just interpreters of the law. You are defenders of fairness, quality, and the rights of our people. Let your conduct reflect the dignity of your office. The people of South Sudan expect justice that is timely and transparent, free from interference. Your service must be guided by principles, not pressure by law, not loyalty to the interest. I reaffirm my support for a strong, independent judiciary that serves as a pillar of peace, dignity, and national ability.
Meanwhile, Chief Justice Dr. Benjamin Bagdeng, who also administered the oath-taking, urged the new justices to prioritize clearing the backlog of court cases. They were promoted early this month in a presidential decree that also promoted scores of other judicial officers elevated to higher courts. The appointment came after the Chief Justice Dr. Benjamin Bagdeng outlined his judicial reform agenda. Following his appointment in June, Dr. Deng said his key priorities include effecting the long overdue promotion of judicial officers, harnessing digital infrastructure, and the development of a new strategic plan to strengthen the judiciary. This is our radio news, and now to the international scene. Here is Nyamot Port.
The UK government has revealed details of its plans to cut foreign aid with support for children's education and women's health in Africa facing the biggest reductions. The government said in February it will slash foreign aid spending by 40% from 0.5% of gross national income to 0.3%, to increase defense spending to 2.5% after pressure from the US. A Foreign Office report and impact assessment show the biggest cuts this year will come in Africa, with less spent on women's health and water and sanitation, with increased risk, it says, of disease and death. Bond, a UK network of 8 organizations, said women and children in the most marginalized communities will pay the highest price. Elsewhere, President Vladimir Zelensky has signed a bill that critics says weaken the independence of Ukraine's anti-corruption bodies, sparking protests in several cities and drawing international criticism. The new law grants the Prosecutor General control of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, and critics says it undermines their authority. In an address on Wednesday, Zelensky said both agencies will still work but needed to be cleared of Russians' influence. After the bill passed, hundreds of people gathered in Kyiv for the biggest anti-government protest since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. Finally, President Donald Trump says the U.S. has agreed to a massive trade deal with Japan, one of the country's largest trading partners. Japan has agreed to invest $550 billion, while its goods sold to America will be taxed at 15% when they reach the country below the 25% tariff Trump had threatened. Trump said on social media that Japan would open its economy to U.S. goods, including cars, trucks, rice, and certain agricultural products. Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba welcomed the announcement, saying it was the lowest figure to date among countries with trade surpluses with the US. That's all about the international news, and now back to you, my colleague in the studio.
Thank you, Nyamot. Now we move to the world of sports. Here is Madrama James.
Thanks, my colleague Lasuba. Memo, let's have a look at some of the stories making headlines in the world of sport. Host Morocco will face Nigeria in the final of the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations after beating Ghana 4-2 in a penalty shootout at the Olympic Stadium in Rabat. The game finished 1-1 after 90 minutes and neither side could break the deadlock in extra time. Evelyn Bandu struck Ghana's third penalty wide, and with Morocco maintaining a perfect record from the sport, the pressure was too much for 18-year-old Comfort Yubo, whose effort was saved by the diving Khadija Ramich. The game had started very differently for the Black Queens, who were better side in the first half and took the lead in the 26th minute through Stella Nyamikia. Meanwhile, Crystal Palace have submitted an appeal against their demotion from the Europa League to the Conference League with the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The appeal is against UEFA, which issued the punishment French club Lyon and Premier League rivals Nottingham Forest. The Eagles were punished for breaching multiple club ownership rules as American business John Texer owns a stake in the club and is the majority owner of Lyon, who have also qualified for the Europa League. Forest, who finished 7th in the Premier League last season, are expected to replace FA Cup winners Crystal Palace in the Europa League should the punishment stand. And finally, Arsenal are on the verge of signing a Sporting striker Victor Gyökeres after negotiation over the final details of the transfer took longer than expected. BBC Sport reported last week a $63.5 million deal was in the final stages, with Arsenal hoping it be done for the beginning of their pre-season tour of Asia, which starts on Sunday. However, the move for the Sweden forward has been held up because of negotiation between the clubs over add-on payments. Those are some of the stories making headlines in the world of sports, and back to you, my colleague Lasuba Memo.
Thanks, Madrama James. This is Ivory News, and to end this bulletin, here's a recap of the headlines. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has said his recent visit to the U.S. was to reset ties with the Western powerhouse, where he urged the U.S. government and American investors to invest in South Sudan's natural resources, including oil, gas, minerals, and infrastructure. The Minister of Finance and Planning has expressed concern over South Sudan's low non-oil revenue contributions, which currently account for less than 20% of the national budget. And Upper Nile Information Minister has once again appealed to the judiciary to deploy a resident judge in Malakal, saying the prolonged absence of judicial services is denying citizens access to justice. That's the end of iRadio News. If there is a story or an event you'd like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message at +211 925 287 870. It's also a WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page iRadio, subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at 12:30. I am Lasuba Memo. Thanks for listening.